What? I did not know that you were not a U.S. citizen until today.
Yeah, I know.
Congratulations on
Thank
Until
becoming
you.
a U.S.
today.
citizen.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, I have been eligible to get to like apply for my civics, whatever, that whole, uh, like I think it's been about 2 years, but I just never got around to it because we were moving, the kids and all of that.
Yeah.
Right.
So I applied for it in January. Today was supposed to be my exam. I didn't even know that it was going to be my oath day. So
Yeah, usually you do the exam
You didn't
first.
have an exam?
I did,
Oh, actually, the
it was
Agdine
like Agdine. I guess it wasn't supposed to be, but the guy was like super impressed and was like, you passed it all with flying colors. Why don't you just go downstairs and take your oath? And I was
Huh?
like, what?
They didn't do like an oath ceremony. They don't call
They
you
did.
back.
Nah,
What if they don't?
in like a
You
different
must.
room.
So you must. It so happened that she showed up on a day where
They
that
were
was happening
doing,
because it's
yeah,
usually not every day. Like for
yeah,
me,
yeah.
I took the test one day, and I
Same.
actually was interviewed by an officer.
Mm-hmm.
They asked me a bunch of questions, and I actually
Mm-hmm.
cried. and
I
then
did too.
and then another completely separate day, they were like, okay, they send you a letter saying, here's your
Mm-hmm.
date.
Date.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I cried during the oath ceremony as well.
me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
it was
Me too.
very emotional.
What made you cry?
S- So I'll answer first, and it sounds like Maya cried too. So during my interview, the woman asked me a question. So they go through a bunch of questions like, are you a terrorist? Were you, I don't know, part of the Nazi? Like a bunch of like questions where like, who actually says
Who
yes
says
to any
yes?
of them? Are
Yeah.
you I think one is like, are you a prostitute? But I can't remember.
What?
Um, just random, very random, specific questions. But then one of them was, are you willing to give up allegiance to all other countries? And it was incredibly difficult for me to say yes because my family's still in Bangladesh
Yeah.
and I identify as Bangladeshi. And it hit me. And I was pregnant with Zayn at the time, so I was probably hormonal anyways, but I just started crying.
Oh, you look
And
like
she
you're gonna
like,
cry right
I
now.
know,
Yeah.
but every time I talk about it, it makes me want to cry. But so she gave me like a Kleenex and she was like, it's okay. A lot of people cry during this interview.
Yeah.
And I thought, shit, man, she's gonna fail me. Like, I can't even say that I'm gonna support the US if we were ever in a war. But like that's how you look at it, right? Like, let's say we went to war with Bangladesh. You're basically saying that, you know, you're gonna be
Going
loyal to
To the
the
against.
US.
US.
Yeah.
And then for the oath ceremony, you know, there's so many people in a room. They're all standing, doing
Yeah.
the same
That's important.
thing. And for me, it took a long time. Like I came here legally, right? Like I came here because my dad was working here. When he left, I was on an international student visa. Then I was on a work visa. Like I did it all the right way, but it still took 14 years. And
Wow.
so it was really emotional when I was finally at that point where I'm taking the oath because it took forever, you know? And
And it's
so
not easy. That journey is not easy. And the
no, not at
stress
all.
is
It's
like,
expensive. You have, you know, I mean, all these applications. People don't realize how hard it is to become a
hmm
citizen and how you have to qualify. You can't just become a citizen.
yeah.
So it was emotional. And like Damon and my cousin Dewey at the time lived here. She came, so they were like watching me. But yeah.
Oh.
What about you,
Well,
Maya?
today we had to wake up one at 4:30 in the morning to get
Ugh.
there because my thing was at like 7:30. So, and it was like an hour drive up. So I was by myself. The kids were sleeping in the cars. Fuad was in the car with them and everything. So it was seemed similar to yours. It was, when they were talking about, pledging allegiance to only the US. I mean,
Yeah,
I feel deeply rooted to the US. Even before I became like,
sure.
would like a US citizen. But even so, like to say that out loud, like knowing that my parents live in
hmm
Canada and they work so hard to make that migration happen. And I still remember I went with my mom and my brother when she took her oath. And like I remember she wore a shari and she like stood up there and she like did that whole ceremony and everything. And I was just kind of like revisiting all of those memories of
Yeah.
like her journey.
hmm
So yeah, that made me really emotional. And then I think like during the oath ceremony itself, I think I got more emotional then like I finally get to join my family because all three of them
Yeah.
they always like flaunt out their US passports everywhere they go, and I'm there with my little Canadian passport.
Did you
So
have to give up your Canadian passport?
no.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, there are these rules. It depends on each country, I think, if you're allowed to
Mhm.
have dual citizenship or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think with US, Canada, it's allowed. And I think I'm going to
Yeah.
continue just because my
Are you
parents are
crying right now?
maybe.
Every time.
Kayla.
I know that story does make me like
What
that's one of the stories when I retell.
you were like
No,
a
dude,
shock to
I'm
pathor
no, I'm
gelo
telling you. And I was getting it's one of those I can't even talk about it without thinking how much that hurts me. I
Yeah.
can't.
And for
But
you,
yeah.
it's Bangladesh. For me, it's like
Mhm.
Canada. I don't
Yeah.
know why,
But
but
still,
it's just
it's
like
where
so
your
much of my
family
life
is.
is, yeah, so much of my
Yeah.
life is that. And to know that now they have a different passport than I do,
That's the
you know,
thing.
yeah,
Exactly. Like you are no longer it's also you saying I felt finally I'm part of my family.
yeah.
It's also the realization that you have now left the family you grew up with and now you're, moving to your next phase in life with your new family. Like
Yeah,
that's kind of
it's like it's
crazy.
official. It's
Oh,
official.
yeah. Like with Fuad, Lulu, and Zed.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the same
yeah,
thing for me. It's like, I'm now part of my family,
yeah,
like my
yeah,
family is no longer my parents and my brother. It's my new family. It's
Damn.
crazy. It's
That runs
crazy.
deep.
it
It's
is deep, right?
So this is very interesting because my perspective and experience is so different.
and were you born here? No, you weren't.
I was born in Canada,
You were born
so
in
I have
Canada.
a
Okay.
Canadian passport, but we didn't get our citizenship. And I think we said this, we talked about this in another
Yeah.
episode until not like 9/11. 9/11
Oh,
happened, and my dad was like, we better do this because he was always like
Yeah.
act by Bangladesh, right? Bangladesh
Yeah.
act by Bangladesh. And he was like, no, we don't need citizenship. Green card is fine. Green card is fine. So we had green card our whole life. And my sister was like, that's not going to work for me because I want to live here. I want to work here. So when she turned 18, she did it on her own. She applied for citizenship
Your
on
oldest sister
her own.
or okay.
Yeah. So she's like, whatever, you guys do you. I need to do this for myself.
Mm.
So she did it herself. And so the rest, my younger sister was born here, so she was automatically a citizen. So me, my dad, and my mom
Oh.
were the ones left. And so I went through the Gulf War, where everybody used to call and be like,
Hussein.
Hussein, Saddam's relatives, like,
Mhm.
get out of the country. Like, you lived through that, and people would tease you at school and live through that. Post 9/11, like that morning, my dad went out and put like American flag. We were in Florida. Like, that is
Yeah.
not where you need to be as a Muslim, Hussein, like all of it. Like American flags on the yard, American flags all over our cars. Like patriotism was like we had to be visibly patriotic. And that's when my dad was like, whoops, we better like go do this. So when it came time to go to our oath ceremony, it was emotional because I think I just get emotional in any like broad human gathering.
You and Maya, man. Oof.
Like you can put me in any random person's wedding. Like I'll go to church and I'll just be like uplifted by
Yeah.
Jesus. Like I will get emotional in anything where there's like a congregation of people.
oh,
And so that got me emotional, but it was just that experience of like almost kind of like Jeed. Like I was like
Ah.
finally, like it was actually more of a Jeed where it was just like I'm tired of this like feeling like another and finally feeling like I have this passport and now I can just be like, no, like we're actually American. But even then, like with the Patriot Act and all these other things, they can just take it away. It's like
Yeah.
natural citizenship is never like permanent.
That's what's scary, especially I think when Trump was in the office, there was a lot of fear of, what does this all mean? Like if you're
Yeah.
not a born citizen.
Yeah.
y-
So we had
y-
this conversation. My dad was like, well, because we had Canadian passports, because they were also Canadian citizens, but they
Mm.
had a Bangladeshi passport because they were by by birth.
Right.
And I think we had one. I don't know. But he was like telling my mom, she was like, "Ami dibo na amar Bangladesh passport, ami dibo na." And he was like, "Why?" And she's like, "Na, এটা আমার দেশের passport, আমি দিব না." And he was like, he's like, "If shit goes down, Bangladesh isn't coming to save you." He's like, "কোথায় যাবা তুমি? Like, you're gonna probably go to Canada. Like, what will happen? Like, especially in that like 9/11
Yeah.
environment." He was like, "কোথায় যাবা তুমি?" We're like, Canada's probably your best bet.
Uncle was very sound and like very logical.
Yeah. He was like, they're not coming to get you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, now looking at the current environment, I'm not sure
Maybe.
Canada would have helped you either,
Mhm.
right? I
Yeah.
mean,